They called her greedy before they called her guilty. In a room full of men in tailored suits, Mara Ellis stood beside an open handbag while security pulled out evidence she had never seen. Stolen cash, a forged account printout, and a ledger carrying the Mafia boss's name. Luca Cataneo did not raise his voice. That was worse. You had access, he said. You had motive, and now you have one chance to tell the truth. But Mara was a forensic accountant. She knew numbers could lie, if the right person touched them first, and one impossible timestamp told her this theft had never been about money. It was about removing her before she found out who was stealing from Luca's empire. With a public gala only 2 nights away, Mara had nowhere safe to run, and no idea that the man who framed her was already inside Luca's inner circle. At 11:49 p.m., Mara Ellis found the number that should not exist. It sat on her second monitor in pale blue type, buried inside a maze of shipping credits, customs fees, and vendor adjustments. To anyone else, it looked harmless. A refund issued to Bellwether Maritime Consulting. $2,400,000. Mara leaned closer. The office around her had gone quiet an hour ago. Only the air conditioning remained, breathing cold air over the rows of empty desks. Beyond the glass wall, Manhattan glittered beneath a sheet of rain. She clicked into the transaction history. The refund had been approved at 11:37, reversed at 11:37 and 11 seconds, then reissued through a different routing code at 11:38. 11 seconds. No legitimate refund moved that fast, not through a company as careful as Cataneo Shipping. Mara reached for her notebook, the black leather one she carried everywhere. Her handwriting was neat, narrow, and impossible to rush. 11:37. So too, Bellwether refund initiated. 11:37 third reversed. 11:38-1 reissued, routing code changed. Then she saw the authorization token, LC01, Luca Cataneo. Her stomach tightened. Everyone in the company knew what those initials meant. Luca did not merely own Cataneo Shipping. He owned the ports, the contracts, the favors people pretended they had never asked for. He could walk into a room without raising his voice, and every person inside it would suddenly remember the truth. Mara had worked for him for 3 years. She had never met him alone, and she had never seen his credentials attached to a transaction this sloppy. No, she whispered. She opened the server audit trail. The record flashed once, then froze. A red banner appeared across her screen. System maintenance, scheduled 12 a.m. Financial log purge in 10 minutes. Mara's pulse quickened. The purge was routine only on paper. It cleared temporary cache files, copied logs, and unfinished audit sessions. If this transaction had been planted inside the overnight cycle, the evidence could disappear before morning. She did not touch the refund again. Instead, she opened a secure forensic imaging program and began preserving the metadata, timestamps, user tokens, routing codes, internal access points. Every movement had to be documented. Every file had to keep its original hash value. One mistake and the evidence would be useless. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Mara stared at it, then answered. "Ms. Ellis," a man said. "Yes?" "Mr. Rinaldi would like to see you on the executive floor." "Silvio Rinaldi, Chief Financial Officer, Luca's most trusted man. It's almost midnight," Mara said. "I'm aware." The line went dead. On her monitor, the progress bar crawled forward. 43%. Mara looked through the glass wall at the elevator bank. The lights were off in every direction except one, the private elevator, descending. She slipped the notebook into her bag and watched the copied file reach 51%. Then the elevator doors opened, and Silvio Rinaldi stepped onto the darkened floor with 2 security guards behind him. Silvio Rinaldi walked toward Mara's desk as if he belonged to the silence. He was 62, silver-haired, perfectly composed. His charcoal suit carried no crease, no rain, no sign that he had crossed half the city after midnight. Behind him, the 2 security guards spread apart without being told. "Mara," he said softly, "please come with us." Her forensic image reached 68%. "I'm in the middle of an audit," she replied. Silvio's gaze moved to her screen, then back to her face. "That is precisely why we need to speak." One guard stepped closer to the computer. Mara closed the audit window before he could see the file path. The image continued copying in the background. She slipped her phone into her pocket and stood. "Where are we going?" The executive conference room. The private elevator carried them up 3 floors. Nobody spoke. Mara watched the numbers above the door change, trying not to think about the copy still running on her workstation. 74%. When the doors opened, Luca Cataneo was already waiting. He stood at the far end of the conference room beside the windows, one hand resting against the back of a black leather chair. He was taller than Mara expected, broad-shouldered, dark-haired, dressed in a black shirt with the sleeves rolled once at his wrists. He did not look angry. That made her uneasy. On the long glass table sat a single printed ledger page. Luca turned toward her. "Miss Ellis, Mr. Cattaneo." Silvio took the page and slid it across the table. "We found irregularities in the Bellwether refund account." Mara read the heading. Her name appeared beside a transfer authorization. Under it, a routing destination she had never seen. "You found this where?" she asked. "In the finance cache," Silvio said. "It's fabricated." One security guard spoke into his earpiece. "Floor sweep complete." Luca's eyes stayed on Mara. "You understand what this suggests?" "Yes," she said. "It suggests someone wants it to suggest something." Silvio gave a faint, disappointed sigh. "Mara, don't make this harder." Then he nodded at the guards. "Search her bag." Her breath caught. The guard lifted her tote from the floor. Mara stepped forward, but the second man blocked her with one hard arm. The first guard opened the bag, removed her notebook, her wallet, a packet of tissues. Then a thick envelope. Mara went still. The guard placed it on the glass table. Cash spilled out. Fresh $100 bills. A second paper followed. Another ledger page, printed with her employee code and a signature that resembled hers closely enough to make her skin crawl. The room seemed to shrink around her. Luca looked at the cash, then at the document, then at Mara. "You had access," he said quietly. "I did not put that in my bag, but it was in your bag because someone put it there." Silvio folded his hands. "There are cameras in this building." Mara met his eyes. "Then review all of them." Luca's gaze sharpened. "We will." The computer alert on Mara's phone vibrated once in her pocket. "Forensic image complete." She said nothing. Luca stepped back from the table. "Your access is suspended pending investigation. You will leave the building with security." Mara stared at him. Not because he had accused her, because he had not asked a single question before deciding she was guilty. Outside, rain struck the pavement in hard silver lines. As the guards walked away, Mara looked across the street. An armored van rolled toward the Cattaneo Marina warehouse. Its rear doors carried the same routing code printed on the forged ledger page. Mara stood beneath the awning across from Cattaneo Shipping and watched the armored van disappear into the rain. The routing code was still burned into her mind. BW77 Bellwether Maritime Consulting, the same code from the forged page in Luca's conference room. A yellow cab hissed past her. Somewhere behind the black glass of the headquarters building, men were probably going through her desk, her work history, every email she had sent in 3 years. Silvio would make sure they found enough to make suspicion feel reasonable. But suspicion was not proof. Mara pulled out her phone. The forensic image had completed before security took her upstairs. She had set the encrypted copy to upload through a private backup connection, one her employer could not access. It would take nearly an hour over cellular data. If someone had put cash in her bag, they were already looking for the copy. The van turned at the next intersection toward the East River. Mara hailed a cab. "Follow that armored truck," she said. The driver looked at her in the mirror. "Lady, that's how people end up on the news. Keep 2 cars between us. I'll pay double." That earned her a nod. They followed at a distance through wet streets until the van reached the private road leading to Cattaneo Marina Warehouse 7. The gate opened before the driver ever slowed. 2 men in dark raincoats checked the surroundings. Neither wore shipping uniforms. Mara told the cab to stop a block away. From beneath the hood of a closed fish market, she watched the rear doors open. No cargo crates came out. Just 3 matte black cases, each small enough for one man to carry and heavy enough to require both hands. A woman in a cream coat waited by the warehouse entrance. Mara recognized her from company charity brochures. Elena Voss, Cattaneo Shipping's legal advisor. Elena checked her watch, spoke to one of the men, then handed him a slim invitation card. Gold lettering flashed beneath the street lamp. Citation Gala Satur, PM. Mara took photographs with her phone, careful not to use the flash. The transfer was not ending at the warehouse. It was moving toward the gala. A charity auction was the perfect disguise. Anonymous donors, shell companies, inflated bids, a public explanation for money that had no business appearing in the books. Her breath caught as the pieces aligned. Silvio was not stealing from Luca and running. He was building a story in which Mara had stolen the money first, then directing the recovered funds through the foundation gala, clean enough to reappear as a legitimate investment. By the time anyone checked, he would have leverage over Luca's port expansion and Mara would be the disgraced employee everyone blamed. Mara called Elena. The line rang twice. Elena Voss. "This is Mara Ellis. I need to speak with Mr. Cattaneo." A pause. "I'm sorry, Ms. Ellis. He is unavailable. I found the Bellwether money. It's being moved through Warehouse 7, and it connects to Saturday's gala. You were instructed not to access company systems. I didn't access anything illegally. I saw a transaction and preserved the audit trail. Elena's voice cooled. Mr. Catania has restricted contact until the internal investigation is complete. Then tell him his credentials were used during an impossible 11-second reversal. Another pause, shorter this time. Mara, Elena said carefully, do not involve yourself further. The call ended. Mara looked back at Warehouse 7. The armored van rolled out empty. She waited until it disappeared, then opened her rideshare app. Her battery was at 12%. An alert appeared before she could book a car. None device attempting to access your home network. Mara stared at the message. Then she ran for the curb. By the time she reached her apartment 20 minutes later, her front door was open, and every light inside was on. Mara did not go inside. She stood across the hall from her apartment with her keys clenched in one hand, listening. The door had been forced at the lock. A thin stripe of warm light cut across the corridor carpet. Somewhere inside, water dripped steadily. She opened her phone camera, held it low, and recorded the damaged frame, the open door, the shadows beyond it. Then she called 911. My apartment was broken into, she said. I'm outside. I haven't entered. By the time the officers arrived, the people who had searched her home were gone. They had been thorough, cushions slashed, drawers overturned. Her clothes pulled from the closet and left in wet piles across the bedroom floor. Her laptop was missing. So was the old external hard drive containing photos of her mother, tax returns, and every personal document she had thought no one would care about. The officer took notes without looking surprised. Anything valuable taken? My laptop. My hard drive. Any cash? No. Do you know who did this? Mara looked at the ruined apartment. Yes, she said. I know someone wanted a copy of financial evidence. The officer finally looked up. Financial evidence? I work in forensic accounting. He wrote something down. Do you have a suspect? Not one she could prove? No. After they left, Mara locked the door with the temporary police seal and stood alone in her kitchen. The encrypted forensic image had uploaded before her home network was attacked. She checked the secure cloud folder from her phone. One file waited there, Catania Find 716-4. Her hands steadied. They had searched for a drive because they believed she had one. They had not expected the evidence to exist somewhere they could not physically take. But an image file alone would not clear her. It would show altered logs, yes. It might show the transfer was manufactured. Yet Sylvia would call it tampered evidence from a disgraced employee. She needed an independent record. Mara opened the cabinet above the stove and removed a cookbook with a broken red spine. Her mother's handwriting covered the pages. Substitute lemon peel. Never trust a recipe that skips salt. She bent the cover backward. Taped inside the hollowed binding was a narrow stack of lined paper. Her private ledger. Years earlier, after watching a senior auditor lose a case because a database archive had been overwritten, Mara began recording critical audit events by hand. Not account balances, not confidential information, just date, time, device clock, access type, and her own observation. A contemporaneous log created before anyone knew it would matter. She found the page from tonight. 1137-2, refund initiated. 1137 reversal. 1138-1, reroute. 1138-4, user token LCS01. Then she compared it with the forensic images system record. Her pulse skipped. The user token was valid, but Luca Catania's executive access had pinged from the finance server at 11:38. At that exact time, she remembered an internal news alert from earlier that evening. Luca was returning from Chicago after a port negotiation. His private jet had departed at 10:55 p.m. The time zone, the flight record, the security manifest. None of it could place him in Manhattan at 11:38. Someone had used his credentials while he was in the air. Across the city, Luca stood in his office with the forged ledger spread before him. He had ordered Mara removed because the facts had appeared complete. Cash, her bag, her access, her silence about what she had copied. But now her personnel file lay open beside the evidence. No unexplained spending, no hidden accounts. No debt collectors, no urgent transfers for her mother's medical care, despite the invoices Luca's people had quietly found. Mara Ellis had needed money badly enough to understand temptation, yet she had never taken any. A knock sounded at his door. His security chief stepped in with a phone. A junior analyst named Owen Park sent this to an anonymous internal mailbox. The image was grainy. A server room camera still. Time stamped, 11:38 p.m. Silvio Rinaldi stood at the finance terminal, one hand holding a black hardware access key against the reader. Luca stared at the screen. Then Owen's second message appeared beneath the photograph. I think Mr. Rinaldi knows I saw him. If anything happens to me, don't let them blame Mara. By Friday afternoon, Mara had not slept. She had changed clothes in the public restroom of a 24-hour diner, charged her phone behind the counter, and used 3 different subway lines before answering Elena Voss's message. Meet me alone. Old tax office. Hester Street. 3 p.m. Do not bring anyone. The office had been abandoned for years. Its windows were painted over, its sign half fallen, its waiting room filled with dead filing cabinets. Mara arrived 20 minutes early and chose the back wall, where she could see the entrance and the narrow hallway leading to the rear exit. At 3:07, Elena came in. She wore the same cream coat from the warehouse, though her expression had changed. No polished calm now, only urgency. You shouldn't have been at warehouse 7, Elena said. You shouldn't have told me to stay away from the only person who could stop this. I did not know what Silvio was doing. Mara gave a tired laugh. That is not a defense, it is an admission. Elena accepted the blow. Luca has seen evidence that changes the situation. Which evidence? A photograph. Owen Parsark, he saw Silvio in the server room. Where is Owen? We don't know. Mara's fingers tightened around the strap of her bag. The door opened again. Luca entered alone, no guards, no weapon visible. Black coat, dark shirt, eyes like he had not slept either. For 1 second, Mara saw something human beneath the authority. A man who had discovered that his certainty had harmed someone. Then he spoke. Where is the money? Her face went cold. Elena shut her eyes briefly. Luca seemed to realize what he had said too late. But Mara had already pulled out her phone and opened the forensic image. Here, she said. This is the server audit. The Bellwether transfer carried your token at 11:38 p.m. I know, do you? Mara zoomed in on the travel security record she had obtained from the company's own archived alert. Your jet departed Chicago at 10:55 Central Time. You were in the air when that access key was used. Luca studied the screen. The system can be spoofed, he said. Yes, with a physical hardware key. She opened the photo of Silvio in the server room. Elena stepped closer. Only the CFO retains that key overnight. Luca's jaw tightened. Mara watched him absorb it. Not the facts, the cost. You let them empty my bag in front of people who report to me, she said. You watched a planted ledger turn me into a thief, and you asked no questions. I made a decision based on what I had. You made a decision based on what was convenient to believe. The silence held. Luca looked directly at her. You are right, no excuse followed. It did not undo anything. Mara reached into her bag and touched the hidden cookbook wrapped in a grocery sack. Her handwritten ledger was inside. Proof created before the frame. Proof Silvio could not rewrite. Luca noticed the movement. Is that the original record? It is none of your business. It can clear you. It can also get me killed if you lose control of your own people again. The front window rattled as a delivery truck passed outside. Elena's phone vibrated. She looked at the screen, then at Luca. Silvio just sent a company-wide notice, she said. He says Mara intends to sell stolen records to a rival bidder tonight. Mara stared at her. I told no one that, she said. Luca's expression changed. He pulled out his own phone and typed a message. A minute later, a reply appeared. Before I came here, he said, I gave Silvio a false location for you. I said you were meeting a buyer at Pier 9. Elena looked from Luca to Mara. He sent the notice before anyone could reach Pier 9, Luca continued. He knew what the false report meant before it was reported. For the first time, Mara saw doubt turn into something sharper in Luca's eyes. Not faith, wariness. You want my help, she asked. Yes, then we do this my way. You do not take my ledger. You do not tell Silvio I am working with you. And when this ends, you clear my name in the same room where you destroyed it. Luca held her gaze. If we survive this, he said, I will. Mara picked up her bag. Good, she said. Then let's give Silvio something worth stealing. The print shop smelled of dust, ink, and overheated metal. Its owner owed Luca an old favor and asked no questions when Elena called. By sunset, the front shutters were down and the 3 of them stood around a work table beneath a single fluorescent light. Mara spread out a clean sheet of paper. This is not the ledger, Luca said. No, she replied. It is what Silvio needs to believe is the ledger. She wrote in careful block letters, Bellwether funds to be exposed through live Gullah auction Futhrut. Mirror file stored off-site. Transfer activation logged at 8:15 p.m. Elena read it twice. If he believes this, he'll change the plan. He has to, Mara said. The Gala Fund is his exit route. He cannot let a public auction server preserve the activation trail. Luca leaned over the table, studying the page. Or he will decide to remove you before tomorrow. He already tried, Mara said. Now he needs something I have. The words landed between them. For a moment, Luca said nothing. He had come to the print shop with 2 armed men waiting outside. But when Mara asked that they stay out of sight, he had given the order without argument. It was a small thing. Still, she noticed it. He had spent years making decisions for people. Tonight, he was learning that command and trust were not the same. Mara folded the decoy page and sealed it inside a gray evidence envelope. Then she added a second sheet, a list of fake backup locations, including one address that belonged to an empty storage unit near Pier 9. "Who carries it?" Elena asked. "I do," Mara said. "No," Luca answered immediately. Mara looked up. His voice softened. "That was not an order. It is a risk assessment. Then assess this. Silvio knows I'm alive. He knows I have evidence. If he sees anyone else carrying it, he will assume it is a trap." Luca's jaw flexed, but he nodded once. "Fine," he said. "You carry it. I control the perimeter." "Wrong again," Mara said. "You protect the perimeter." "I control the trap." A faint smile almost appeared at the edge of Elena's mouth. They left the envelope where it could be discovered, inside a courier box in the print shop's rear hallway, addressed to Mara but deliberately unsecured. Luca's security team withdrew in stages, creating just enough blind space for someone watching to make a move. They did not wait long. At 9:14 p.m., a man in a delivery uniform entered through the alley door. He walked past the cameras Luca had positioned openly, found the box exactly where Mara had left it, and took the envelope. Luca's man followed him only until the courier crossed into midtown traffic. "We let him go?" Luca asked. "We let him deliver the lie," Mara said. At 9:27, Elena's phone rang. She listened without speaking. Then her face lost color. "It's Silvio," she said. "He says he has Owen." Luca took the phone, put it on speaker. Silvio's voice came through calm and almost amused. "Tomorrow's gala is important, Luca. You will attend. You will not search Warehouse 7, and Mara Ellis will remain exactly where she is." Mara's skin went cold. "If either of you tries to access the auction system before 8:15, Silvio continued, Owen Park will not be available to authenticate anything." A muffled sound came from somewhere near the caller, a young man trying not to cry out. Then Silvio added, "Bring the original handwritten ledger to the gala. You see, Mara, your page has become very valuable." The line went dead. Luca looked at Mara. For the first time since the accusation, neither of them pretended this was only about clearing her name. Saturday evening arrived dressed in gold. The Cattaneo Foundation Gala filled the restored ballroom of the Old Harbor Museum with donors, investors, city officials, and people who smiled too easily when Luca Cattaneo entered a room. Crystal chandeliers burned above white linen tables. A string quartet played near the stage. Beyond the glass doors, the river lay black beneath the city lights. No one knew Owen Park had been found at 4:20 that afternoon. Mara had recognized the sound behind Silvio's call. A long, low harbor horn followed by the sharp metallic rattle of an elevated freight line. Warehouse 7 sat too far from the tracks. But an abandoned cold storage depot 3 blocks north had both. Luca's people found Owen there, bound but alive. They did not announce the rescue. Not yet. Owen was hidden in a secure room with Elena, his phone, and the original server room image sealed for police custody. If Silvio believed his hostage still controlled the evidence, he would continue exactly as Mara expected. At 7:48 p.m., Mara entered the gala through the service corridor. She wore a dark green dress Elena had brought from a boutique. Not because Luca had asked her to change, but because Mara had chosen not to walk into the ballroom looking like someone fleeing a crime scene. The cookbook containing her handwritten ledger rested inside a reinforced document case beneath her coat. Luca waited beside the catering entrance. "You can still leave," he said, "and let Silvio write the ending." His eyes held hers. "That is not what I meant." "I know." She adjusted the document case. "But I'm here." For a moment, he looked as if he wanted to say something else, an apology perhaps, a warning. Instead, he stepped aside. "Your team is in position," he said. "My team?" "Elena, Owen, and 2 independent digital forensics specialists. Your request?" Mara nodded once. "Good. No one touches the auction server until I say so." They entered separately. Silvio was already on stage, silver hair immaculate, champagne glass in hand. He spoke warmly about community investment, public trust, and the future of Cattaneo shipping. The hypocrisy was so clean it almost looked convincing. Then he noticed Mara near the back of the room. His smile did not change. "Before we begin our auction," Silvio said, "there is an unfortunate matter requiring transparency." A screen descended behind him. Mara's forged ledger appeared in enormous white letters. Then a video played. Mara standing in the conference room from the night before. Her face, her voice. "I copied the records," the video said. "I knew where the money was going." The room erupted in whispers. Mara watched the altered footage once. A deepfake stitched from fragments of her real statements. Clever, expensive, but rushed. Luca remained near the stage, expression unreadable. Silvio turned toward Mara with theatrical regret. "Mrs. Ellis, would you care to explain why you betrayed this company?" Every eye found her. The same public shame, only larger. Mara walked forward. "Yes," she said, "I would." She reached the auction control table and connected a secured forensic device to the server mirror. One of the specialists verified the chain of custody seals. Elena stood beside Owen at the ballroom entrance, just visible enough for Silvio's eyes to widen. Mara projected the timeline from the original financial image, 11:37:2, 13, 11:38:1. The false refund bloomed across the screen. "This is the actual transaction sequence," Mara said. "It proves the theft was created using a token belonging to Mr. Cattaneo while he was aboard a flight." Silvio recovered quickly. "A desperate employee can manipulate timestamps." Mara opened her mouth to answer. Then the auction system chimed. A red alert flashed across every screen. Bellwether account activation confirmed. Dola 2,400,000 transfer released. Silvio looked at the room, then at Mara. "You see," he said softly, "she triggered it." The guests turned toward her again, and for one dangerous second, even the truth on the screen looked like another lie. Silvio's accusation hung in the ballroom like smoke. Mara looked at the red transfer alert. Then she looked at him. "No," she said, "I didn't trigger it." Silvio spread his hands toward the guests. "The live system is connected to her device. We all saw it." "You saw a transfer," Mara replied. "That is not the same thing." She turned to the forensic specialist beside her. "Open the activation header, full metadata." "Not the dashboard summary," the specialist typed. Silvio's smile faded by half a degree. The ballroom screen changed. Lines of technical data filled the display. Timestamps, access path, authentication key, device signature. Mara pointed to the first entry. Bellwether was not activated from this terminal. It was activated from a remote executive token 28 seconds before this alert appeared. Silvio laughed softly. "And you expect them to understand that?" "No," Mara said. "I expect them to understand this." She removed the cookbook from the document case. A few people stared at it, confused. Mara opened the red cover and withdrew the narrow stack of handwritten pages. "This is my contemporaneous audit ledger. I recorded the original transaction the moment I saw it, before anyone accused me, before anyone knew the gala would matter." She handed the pages to the second digital forensics specialist. "The paper, ink, and handwriting have already been authenticated," Elena said into the silence. "The original notes predate every forged record shown tonight," Mara continued. At 11:38 Thursday night, Luca Cattaneo's credentials were used while he was on a flight from Chicago. The original server image proves that. My handwritten ledger proves I saw the anomaly before I had any reason to invent it. The screen shifted again. Owen Park stepped into the ballroom with Elena at his side. He looked pale, exhausted, and very much alive. Silvio's face changed completely. Owen held up a sealed evidence bag containing his phone. "I took this photo because I thought the transaction was wrong," he said. His voice shook, but it did not break. Mr. Rinaldi was in the server room with the CFO hardware key. The image appeared on the screen. Silvio beside the finance terminal, the black key pressed against the reader. The timestamp, 11:38 p.m. A low murmur moved through the guests. Mara tapped the activation header once more. And tonight, to protect his lie, he activated Bellwether again. The remote token used for the transfer was not Luca's. It was cloned from the same hardware key. Silvio backed away from the stage. "That proves nothing," he snapped. "She could have taken it. Except the key never left your possession," Luca said. His voice cut through the room. Luca walked onto the stage and held up a security report. "Your biometric log shows your fingerprint opening the CFO key vault at 7:43 tonight. Your private account received the first Bellwether deposit through a Shell charity bidder 30 minutes later." Silvio's eyes flicked toward the ballroom doors. Two financial crimes investigators entered with uniformed officers behind them. Elena spoke quietly. The account records were preserved before the transfer completed. Silvio looked at Mara one final time. There was no confession, no collapse, only calculation, followed by the realization that every exit had been closed by evidence he could not erase. The officers took him away. The ballroom stayed silent long after the doors shut. Then Luca turned toward Mara, not the crowd, not the investors, her. "I accused you in public," he said. "I let a lie become your punishment because I wanted the facts to be simple." Mara did not rescue him from the words. "I was wrong," he continued, "and I am sorry." He faced the room. "Miss Ellis was innocent. She exposed a crime inside my company at great personal risk. Effective immediately, an independent audit will review every Cattaneo account, including mine. Her name will be cleared in every record, every report, and every room where it was damaged." The applause began slowly. Mara did not smile until later. 3 weeks afterward, she sat across from Luca in a sunlit office that did not belong to Cattaneo Shipping. A brass sign rested on the desk between them. Ellis Forensic Advisory. I won't come back as your employee, she said. I didn't ask you to. You'll have no control over my findings. I know, and if I find something ugly, I report it. I would expect nothing less. Mara studied him. Then she signed the independent consultant agreement. When she stood to leave, Luca walked her to the door but did not touch her. Dinner? He asked. Not business, and you can say no. For the first time since the night the numbers turned against her, Mara felt the future open without a threat inside it. She looked back at him. Tomorrow, she said. Then she walked out carrying nothing but her own name.